welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. My name is Jessamy G and I am reconnected with my darling, beautiful, amazing Miss Alice Eady, who can breathe through all of her face.
I have the faculty of my noses back, sinuses, nose, singular.
And we're also back on Wurundjeri land. You've been away in Queensland this week getting some sun. So I'm happy to be here recording on Wurundjeri land as we always do.
Yeah.
How's your trip?
Oh, it was so good. I flew up for work on the Monday, so I've flown up on the Sunday night and then extended it for a couple of days just to have some ocean time and to defrost from Melbourne winter. And I added an extra day, like the client paid for a hotel for the first 2 nights, which was really nice. And then I just added an extra night at a hostel.
At a hostel?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Tell me everything.
This is so crazy that I'm 36 years old. I've never done this before. And this is such an iconic part of like people's 20s, early 30s maybe. Like this is
I'd say 20s, firmly 20s.
See, I don't even know. And it was so fun. There are honestly so many thoughts, so much layers and things to unpack within the space of a night.
Yeah.
But that experience of going to this place full of just humans who are traveling and moving through space and like forming these micro communities that are defined by the fact that they're transitory. Also being around people with really, truly that carefree feeling.
Yeah.
It made me feel old, but it made me feel young as well because there were definitely parts that I was like, oh yeah, I'm still
I'm still hip to the kids. Is that what you were going to say?
I heard myself saying it. I was like, oh God.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I haven't been to a hostel since I was like 18, I think. That was so when I did that trip. Or possibly early 20s. I think maybe I stayed at a hostel in New Zealand. I would have been a little bit older. But it was just the best. Like for that age particularly, it was like our first time being away from home for an extended period of time. But you're right, the social aspects of it are fascinating, like how quickly people form these little like subgroups and how good people are at socially organizing themselves without thinking about it. Like it's a natural thing
how the
that we do.
dynamics emerge in that space. Yeah, it's completely fascinating. And at dinner, or I say dinner, sort of there's the communal area, the communal kitchen. And I was sitting, I'd taken my Kindle because I don't know what the right phrasing is. Like I wasn't nervous and I wasn't feeling shy, but I was just quite aware that I was quite a bit older than most of the people there, firstly. And I didn't want to, I didn't know what the dynamic was and I didn't know what was required and I didn't know who knew who or what their story was. Yeah. So I kind of had my safety Kindle there.
Cute.
For supper and I was sitting at the table and I was eating my my choice of meal for the night, which I think was really...
Was it frozen blueberries?
It was one level up from that. You just see me, Jess. Thank you,
babe.
So I'd bought a tin of tuna and then I'd bought a box of pre-sliced cheese and then I was using the pre-sliced cheese as the base for the tuna.
Oh, Alice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would 100% eat that. But it's a bit bleak.
So that's what I was doing.
You're adorable.
And they were just, they're kind of like watching the groups sort of sit at the table and who was chatting to who. And I could tell, like, it was really cute. There were these 2 girls chatting next to me, early 20s. Yeah. Like I'm at the point where I can't tell the difference between a 19-year-old and a 24-year-old.
Oh, I think everyone is my age. Like everyone, I always have. When I was 24, everyone was 24. Yeah. I'm 38, everyone's 38.
I don't know.
That's how self-absorbed I am.
I was like, I know that they're young. I was like, I get that. They kind of have that like undergrad feeling about them. But that could mean anything. Like that could be 19, it could be 23.
Yeah.
But yeah, and eventually like chatting to them and it was so fun and so interesting. And the one girl was like this diver and she's super into sharks and just watching, like learning these fragments of people's lives and fascinations and yeah, it was just like she was lighting up talking about sharks. And can I tell you my one shark fact?
Please.
Okay. So she had a hammerhead shark tattoo on her inner arm.
Cool.
Awesome. Straight away. I was like, yeah, she's my hostel friend, you guys. I choose you. She's Swiss and she's an engineer, and she was so excited about hammerhead sharks from the engineering perspective.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? I know. I'm like, this is a conversation that I never thought my life would involve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like how? So she was saying how what she loves about them is apparently, obviously they're famously just because they're so weird looking, but they're so fast. They're like the fastest shark or one of the fastest sharks. And it's because of the design of their head, which if you think about it, looks a little bit like the front of or the back of a Formula One car. She didn't say this. This is me extrapolating, but that kind of like flat, I don't know.
The spoiler.
Yeah.
But I know about cars. Don't worry about it.
Sharks and cars.
But there's a reason that's on the back of the car, not the front of the car. I would have thought that would not be particularly aerodynamic, no?
Well, I don't know.
Listen to this. Two fucking idiots who know absolutely nothing about cars being like, yes, but shouldn't I? Doesn't make sense. I'm poking holes in an engineer's story being like, yeah, I don't know about that. Doesn't sound right.
Dude, I don't know. She explained the whole thing and I was doing that classic thing of like nodding along because the person is explaining it in a way that's very compelling, but then immediately afterwards you just have you're like, no, I don't know. Is there a test? Because I don't fucking know. But the thing that I do remember was she was like, they're super fast. And because they're so weird looking, people think that they're more of the prehistoric, like they look like a weird ancient prehistoric thing.
Yeah.
But actually they're the newest shark. Right?
There you go. And I mean, now at the risk of making this a test, do you like what does a new shark, is that like hundreds of thousands of years or like did he come around in the 90s?
I don't know what the shark timeline is. It's a great question and one that our readers, listeners, someone write in with the shark fact.
Yeah, but, there you go. Yeah, I would have thought that too. They look very dinosaur-y.
So cool. Yeah, exactly. They look dinosaur-y, but they're not. They're new.
Yeah.
Any further information? I don't know. I'm not
Should I make that into I haven't made a pull quote tile for a while, but I feel like that probably calls for one.
This is such an educational podcast. It's truly so enlightening.
Hey, did you make your dinner choice of tuna and cheese slices in order to appear youthful?
To be honest,
part of your master plan.
No.
Hey kids.
Hey guys. What? No, I didn't. That's so funny. I'm like, is that what youths eat?
Got my Lunchables.
Oh God, like just a bottle of milk. No, it was a purely it was a laziness based choice. There was a petrol station around the corner. Okay. So that was pretty much it. But I did consider, I was like, wow, tuna. That's a bold move for a shared space.
Yeah.
It's like eating a boiled egg in an open plan office.
Yeah, egg's much worse. So I feel like tuna, particularly if it's flavored, it's not that bad unless you're cooking it.
Yeah. No, I was just like, well, this is happening. It's this or I don't know.
I feel like probably at least once a week I say the words, is that eggs or farts? Because Dan often eats boiled eggs. Eats boiled eggs and farts. We all do it. And it's a very confronting smell when you walk downstairs and I need to know what's in my nose. Eggs or farts.
The thing that's so interesting to me is that it makes a difference.
It does.
Why though?
Because if you're thinking about smelling someone's farts, you're thinking about their little like fart poo particles going inside you. Like if I knew it was eggs, Like I wouldn't feel bad about being like, what's that? It's eggs. But I don't want to go like, if I'm unsure, because I don't want the fart to go inside
More
me.
inside you. Do you remember that scene in Fleabag where the two sisters, Fleabag and her sister, are inside an elevator with the catering on their way to an event?
Oh, I do remember this, yeah.
And Fleabag farts and another woman gets into the elevator and the sister just gives her this death stare, and then the woman, there's like a pause and you're kind of waiting, you're like, oh God. And then the woman who steps in just goes, delicious.
Oh,
And I know you watch it.
it's so
Your
awful.
whole body just recoils. It's so for that reason, because you know that she's like taking this deep inhale. I'm like, that was inside someone's colon.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, this is fascinating.
It's taken us a year to get to fart chat.
Yeah.
But here we are.
But it's the same if like, say, if you were to smell Parmesan cheese out of context, you'd be like, there's vomit somewhere, something is wrong. In context, you're like, delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the classic. It's like a gym bag or cheese.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same
And
smell.
it matters, and it completely switches your, like, whether it is repulsive or delicious.
Yeah.
But it's the same or very similar scent.
It's pretty amazing because that really does tell you in quite a literal, visceral way, like the importance of storytelling. Like that, because that is all that it, and that is the pure difference between being disgusted and wanting to vomit, or loving a thing and wanting to put it inside your mouth.
Yeah.
So okay, speaking of
Where are
vomit,
we going?
okay, so I have it's not quite a dilemma. It's quite a low stakes dilemma, but I still really wanted to ask your advice on this because okay. I mean, no. So for a friend's birthday on Saturday, we went to a very fancy Melbourne restaurant, very respected, notable place. It was 110 rand a head. Rand. Oh my God.
Where do you live, Alice?
Crazy. 5 years, 6 years later. Wow. Because I can't even bring myself to say $110 a head. That's crazy.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so it was like five courses, $110, and then obviously wine on top of that.
Yeah.
It was a special occasion. It was a group of us girls went out. So it was a treat and amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing experience, incredible service. The food was delicious. There was way too much of it. So by the end, I was feeling like quite full and quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I put that down to my general gluttonous self, which is fair. And then we kind of got back to her place, and this was at about 11 or maybe 11:30. Got back to her house, and I started just feeling like not quite nauseous, but just not good. By midnight, we were in an Uber home, and I was with a friend of mine, Wendy, and I was like, dude, I'm not good. Something's not right. And then when you're going to be sick, because she kind of was also like, yeah, I'm also really like not feeling good. Like that food was pretty rich. And that was like the second she was saying like food and rich. I was like, we need to not talk about that. Like, and then I was like, oh God, like it's happening. Because you know how it is, like the second you hear when you're feeling sick and someone discusses like the food, you're like, oh, okay, we're on our way to like, this is happening. This is not nothing. And luckily, as a part of a separate story, I had in my tote bag like a big glass jar that my very dear friend Marianne had given me some soup earlier in the week when I was sick, and I was returning her glass jar to her, soup free. And Marianne had been like, no, don't worry about it. You can keep it. So I had, fortunately, like 1.5 liter glass jar.
What are the odds?
I know.
What are the odds?
I'm like, it's an unfortunate situation, but I literally was like, we're on Hoddle Road. It's like past midnight. There is nowhere to pull over and stop. And in a very short space of time, I was like, it went from being like, I feel bad, to I was like, oh, this is happening. So I pull this jar out of my bag.
I wonder if the Uber driver was like, she carries this around because this bitch does this all the time. It's my Saturday night puke jar.
It was so efficient. It was so vile because also like it's glass, so you can see everything, and it's just like it was it was a bad time. But you know when you're feeling that, like
sorry that happened.
You just don't even care. You're like, I just want to die and get this over with.
Yeah.
And Wendy's so sweet. She's just stroking my hair. She's like, we're nearly home. We're nearly home. Like, it was so cute. Anyway, and I just felt so bad. I'm like, so sorry to the driver who obviously thinks I'm really drunk at this point, and I wasn't. But anyway, and I finished, put the lid on the jar, and then just have like a big old jar of puke to like take home at the end of the
What did you do with
trip.
it?
I literally, like, I was like, I want to take a photo, but what am I going to do with it? I'm like, I hate this about myself. But I was like, because I just felt, I don't know, it's like an animal. I was like, well, now I'm like, I want to show someone.
I get it. It's like I was saying the other week with the sneeze. Like, she proudly showing.
It's so
my
weird.
boyfriend,
I know,
my
but it's so like, there's something so, you're like, look.
I made this.
Yeah. It's so gross.
I think it is kind of a weird version of that though. Like, it's not, like, pride isn't the right word, but it's sort of like, like this came out of me.
Yeah, here's the thing I did. You guys are all having babies. Well,
I've got puke jar.
Our bodies can all make things, okay? So anyway, I took like a one kind of blurry photo just in the elevator because I felt better immediately, right?
Yeah.
And the story is going somewhere. But like I just took a kind of photo in the elevator reflection and sent it to all the girls in the group because I was like, I just want to show you. Like I don't know. I always feel like some part of me feels like everyone's gonna think I'm making it up. Like not that group specifically, but just my whole life. Like, I'm like, oh, but you say you're sick, but I feel like everyone secretly thinks you don't feel as bad as you do. I was like, look, but I did, okay? Anyway.
Finally, proof.
I wasn't making it up. So all of this to say, okay, so when the dust settles.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of this, so Wendy, who was in the Uber with me and we were sitting next to each other at the restaurant, was also sick 2 hours later.
Oh, wow.
So it stops just being I'm feeling something weird. Like and it was the only thing we'd eaten in common.
Yeah.
At all. So like it has to be from the restaurant.
Yeah.
So what is the etiquette or practice around this? This was not just takeaway from somewhere for $25. Like this jar of vomit in my hand cost $130.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
Yeah.
So like we kind of discussed it within the group and the girl sort of contacted the restaurant and let them know.
Yeah.
And they got back to her saying, okay, what can we do to make it right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a fair response from them because they can't time travel.
Yeah.
And it's not even about, I don't know, I just felt, I'm not trying to be a dick, but also the alternative is you've also asked me to pay like more than $100 for a meal that like literally wasn't even in my digestive system for an hour. That's also not ethical. I don't think. I don't know.
I'm just trying to work. So what would you have liked them to do?
Well, this is what I'm saying is I actually have no idea, but it just feels wrong to me to do nothing.
But so you've already not done nothing because they've contacted them. So I think that was definitely the right thing to, I mean, for no other reason. Sorry, not for no other reason, but obviously like other people's safety is important as well.
Exactly.
And good for them to know. So that's good. Now they've gotten back and said, what can we do? So your question is,
what can they do?
How do you answer that question?
What can they do?
Well, it's up to what you want. I mean, I think it would be perfectly reasonable to ask for your money back.
Do you think that?
I think so.
That was kind
of
If
it made you violently ill in like if you got food poisoning from there and it cost you $130, I think that's reasonable. But I've never been in this situation. Also, I'm someone that will literally eat something I'm allergic to so I don't have to send it back. So like I may not be, I'm up here like, yes, I think that's reasonable. Would I do it? Probably not. Only because I'm a massive fucking wuss. But if I wasn't a massive fucking wuss, I think, I don't think that's unreasonable. And also, like, all you can do is ask, be kind.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's because at the end of the day, the person you're having that conversation with was not the person who cooked and prepared that meal or probably even bought those ingredients, right? So they're now trying to fix a problem that they are responsible for, but it's not their fault.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying like, look, I don't know. Like I spent $130 on this meal. I was really excited about it. That's actually quite a big chunk of money for me. I guess, if there's a possibility of having that reimbursed, or you could like go back there, but you may not want to have another vomit jar. I don't think there's any harm in it. I don't think it's rude to ask.
Okay, I think that was what I was wondering, because that was my feeling on that, was that felt fair, just because the alternative is me paying them for nothing.
Yeah.
The experience, but I don't know. It feels wrong to me for not, like, if they came back and they were like, shit, sorry. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, that to me also feels icky. I'm like, well, it's not just letting you know though. Like, I don't know. But it's hard also when there's a group and you don't want to be that crazy person either, when I don't know, like, you don't want to make a group event that was super fun and it was a great evening. The part that was shit was afterwards. But now if you like, the group chat is around this, I don't know, it also made me feel
how is
like
it relevant?
I want to take away from that experience.
But why? How is it relevant to the group? Why is the whole group involved?
I guess because it was, I don't know, because it was in the, I guess because I raised it in the group chat and we paid as one. So it's us paying back a friend. So she's got to be the one to contact the restaurant. I offered to do it directly, but she was happy to do it. But it's like, I don't know, it just feels like putting her in a weird position, because it's like,
I wouldn't ask someone else to do that on my behalf.
Okay, you would do it directly. Yeah, okay. I think I should have been maybe more. I did offer, but she was happy to do it. But I think I maybe should have just like.
Well, I think fine if she was happy to do it, the like letting them know part.
Yeah.
If she was sort of the organizer, I feel like that's fine. But if there's now further conversation of them saying, what do we do to make this right? And then that decision is on you on what that thing is, and it's not got anything to do with her. And unless she is someone who just like loves confrontation and wants to be.
She's the opposite.
Yeah. So she's like, I don't think that, like, I wouldn't like to be in her position as someone who doesn't love confrontation either. I wouldn't want to do that on someone else's behalf, because that's, I think from this point on, it's your decision what you want to do, and then your responsibility to contact them and tell them what that is.
See, this is why I love you. That's fucking great advice. And it's like, it's such a simple difference, but I hadn't quite got there myself. I think because I was still busy being like, is it even reasonable to ask for money back? That was kind of the question that I'd gotten caught up on. Yeah, it is, but there's still different ways to do that. And like, it's not, it shouldn't have really been on her. It's not a great birthday thing to have to do.
Was it her birthday?
Yep.
Oh yeah, don't.
I'm gonna phone her after this conversation.
No,
I was like, I think because she had managed all the liaising with them.
Totally.
But you're 100% right. I agree.
But I think up until this point, that's all totally fine. But I think however you wanted to progress from here, probably don't make the birthday girl do it. Sorry. I'm making it sound worse than it is. I'm sorry.
No, you're literally not.
Poking at you.
It is just what it was. Thank you for letting me turn this into a consumer watch program.
Yeah.
No, it was just like, these things do happen, and it's also why I think there's a difference between like, they're a great restaurant, and I think it is just bad. Statistically, they're serving thousands of meals. It's gonna happen. They're not a bad place, and I would never like name them or tweet shit about, like, I'm like, that's a different response to just being like, okay, fair is fair though. Like, I didn't really get the food, so can I maybe not pay for it? Yeah. Well, there we go. Solving all of life's big issues, one vomit jar at a time. I'm going to show you the picture immediately after this. I do want to see it. It's one of those things like, do I? No, like I do. I have to now because I know it exists. When you were talking about that, like being in the Uber and just being like, I don't care. I just need to like get this out of me. Yeah. Isn't it funny, like when it comes to like embarrassment, there are certain lines, like when something urgent is happening,
that like for a few minutes you're taken completely out of giving a shit what anyone else thinks at all because you have to, look, they're usually bodily function related. They're the most urgent kind of things. Or I imagine if someone was in severe danger or something like that. But all of these things that we talk about at length on this podcast every week that we, you know, drive ourselves crazy thinking, oh, what will other people think if I do or say this? Or even like the end part of that story, you know, like what's right or not, or is it rude, or how should I go about it? In a certain, like we are capable of not doing that at all when things are pushed to a certain degree of urgency or seriousness or whatever that you just couldn't give a shit at all.
That's such a great point, and I hadn't thought of it like that, but it's that idea of like social graces and insecurities and all of that narrative is a luxury. And when you descend down to the base survival stuff, it just becomes, I mean, I suppose in a way it's what people speak about during childbirth, where beforehand you're like, remember the first time you hear that it's common to shit yourself during childbirth and you're like, oh my God, what? Like it blows your mind. You're like, what? But they're nurses and doctors and they're like, you can't wrap your head around it. And then you kind of like over time and enough friends go through it, it's like, you're like, oh, that is the least of your fucking, that is not even on the list of things you care about anymore in that circumstance.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, have you ever shut yourself in public?
No, thankfully. But I'm thinking like on this subject. Wait, have you?
No. Touch
Good.
Wood. I feel I'm like,
we're killing it.
If I can get through life not missing a flight and also not shitting myself in public, I'll be pretty happy.
I feel like the likelihood of it increases with age.
Well, just
like coffees must be consumed very close to toilets. There can't be a like cute, I'm going to get a coffee on my way somewhere. That is an option that no longer exists for me.
It's like when a toddler says they need the bathroom.
Yeah, and they mean
they're
right
like,
now.
it's not there's no time, extended timeline.
It's like I'm shitting.
Yeah, it's happening.
But that thing, I always like, and I get it. I get why businesses have to like have some boundaries with their toilet use so that people aren't just using their things as public toilets. But the fact that like a human being who obviously is about to shit themselves can look at another human being in the eye and be like, please, can I please use your toilet? And that person says no, I think is just the most awful thing. I can't, I saw a guy once and like he was being rude, but he was about to shit his pants quite obviously. So this was early in the morning. I was on my way to the gym. It was like 5:30 a.m. or something. And it was just at like a service station in Thornbury-ish. And so the guy was sort of like very, very agitated and obviously like things were desperate, asking to use their toilet. They don't have a public toilet and he was getting increasingly worked up. Oh, no. Eventually they let him use it. And he came out and he was a different person. He's like, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to be aggressive. I didn't mean to talk to you like that. It was just a very urgent situation.
Oh
and I went from being like, this guy's a fucking asshole, which is what I thought he was just being super aggressive. But then I was like, cast your mind back, Jessamy, to times you have desperately needed to shit and the things you would have said and done to get yourself to a toilet. But yeah, it was like night and day, this poor guy. And then like, and the people that working there were obviously upset because they'd been yelled at, but I could see them like thaw when he came back and they were like, oh, yeah, we've all been desperate for a shit at some point in our lives. I get it now.
It's just pure vulnerability as well because like those are the last moments of any control that person has and they know it. Yeah. They're like, if there is no plan B after this. There's no safety net. Like that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
It's one of the most vulnerable situations because I'm quite a fan of a jumpsuit or a bodysuit or one-piece thing. They're like, if you're out and you're wearing that, a lot of the time, like you're just completely naked when you go to the toilet.
Yeah.
So I always think like if I had shit while I was out and someone walked in on me in the toilet completely naked, that would be the worst. That is like peak vulnerable. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to me.
Oh, it's like, because in my mind I'm playing back. So yesterday on my flight I was wearing a jumpsuit as well, and I literally went through. I was like, "This was it's the worst flight choice."
Oh yeah, because you don't want to put it anywhere near the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you can't just quickly go to the bar and like you're drinking the whole time to try stay hydrated on the plane. But there's like you say, you're naked every time you pee.
Yeah.
And I just have this vision of, like you say, like, because it kind of, as I was doing this, I was like, this was a bad choice. Mental note, this is not good flying attire.
Yeah.
Because also I was like, what happens if you're stuck in traffic, already nightmare situation, and you have to like find some wilderness bush to like run.
Oh,
you have to pull your car over and like run into the wilderness, already nightmare town. But add to that you're just being naked. And it's like you've got everyone else on the highway being like, fuck, we empathize with the shit, but why? Well,
why is she naked?
That already seems unnecessary. Like,
it's already the worst. I mean, I guess shits are the same for everyone, but it's like if a guy needs to piss, he can just very easily go off and piss. Like you saw you didn't see, I saw at the Great Ocean Road Marathon that I did a couple of months ago, like the boys, and I'm glad that they do because it saves the cubicles for women who need them. They can just run off to the side and take a piss at the edge. Easy, no worries. They don't have to get naked, do anything. But we've got to take our full fucking pants off and show our precious little white botties.
your little butt. No suntan, nothing.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's an injustice that feels very front of mind when you're a kid. I suppose like anything,
totally.
you just, and obviously whatever like gender lines you sort of flow along, like it's different. But like I just remember as a kid really feeling very keenly that injustice that my boy cousins could whip out their dicks and pee.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm like, that feels like so many like options for activities.
Yeah. It's just like you don't have to stress about it as a thing. Even if you're just like, it's summer and you want to like go to the park and have some drinks, like, well, we need to be close enough to a toilet block. I mean, I'm not advocating for everyone pissing in public all the time, but it would be easier.
Yeah.
If you could.
You know what? And vaginas are great too. And
well, they are, but in terms of practicality of
there's like
use.
there's like a mechanical practicality happening.
Did you remember that time, I don't know if they had it in South Africa, where they tried those sheepy things at festivals and stuff?
Do you know what? I'm so curious to know if this was ever a real thing or if this falls into the category of like things that everyone feels like they've heard of, but no one is actually seen.
Oh, no, I saw them.
Really?
Yeah. They had them at like the big day out in the festivals and stuff that were in Melbourne. So they had like so they were like urinals and you had like I think it was just like coated cardboard, like a funnel essentially that you would put down your, so the idea was you could just like, this is not good for podcasting because I can't show, not that I'm taking my pants off for those listening. Or am I? I'll have to watch us on YouTube.
The sheepy demonstration. That's how we finally found our niche.
So it's like a flat, like imagine like a flat triangle with slight edges.
Yeah.
And then like a funnel. The idea being that you could just sort of unzip your pants like a boy would and then tuck that down like the front of your undies and it would like funnel the pee into the urinal.
Is that disposable? Because surely like that's okay.
Yeah, it's a one use thing. I think.
That like, did you use it?
No. I was like, I'm definitely going to piss on myself.
I'm going to need to practice.
It didn't, well, the whole thing kind of flopped because you can't just like put in something that has been essentially created for men, like the urinal thing, because there's different like, there's different like social conditioning. And so it's not just the practicality of being able to do it, but the way that was set up, you and I would be like looking at each other while peeing, essentially.
Yeah, which for us is like a thing we've never done.
Yeah. So it was just not as, particularly at those festivals, which are mainly aimed at like younger people. Like that would have been like, I'll fucking look at you in the eye and piss right now. I don't give a fuck. But like 15-year-old me would have been like, oh my God, like horrifying. And it was quite open to, like, I don't know, might be conflating a couple of memories here, but yeah, it just didn't work because it was too abrupt, the sort of going from being on your own in a cubicle with complete privacy to like right up the other end, which I've come to learn so many boys fucking hate too anyway. Like, they're like, I would never use the urinal if I had the option of going into a cubicle because it's weird. I don't want to get my dick out that close to another person. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people do, but it's like, it's just the privacy thing.
Yeah, you're asking people to do something new is one thing, and you're also asking them to do the new thing in public, which is now two barriers.
Yeah, exactly.
To entry, and as well as something being new in terms of it's a social dynamic that you've never experienced before.
Yeah.
It's also something that is like physically. So I realized have I told you about peeing in the ballet costumes? Have I told you this?
Please do. No, I don't think so.
This is one of the classic like Alice in art school memories.
Oh, I thought you were talking about being like a little kid.
Oh no.
Well, now I'm very confused. Please,
so
tell me.
This wasn't my artwork. This is a very dear friend of mine who shall remain nameless. Had this idea for a piece where she constructed collarbones out of paper mache or something, or clay, and then she wanted to suspend the collarbones from the ceiling and from them drape ballet leotards, like little children's ballet leotards.
Yeah.
So they'd be like these kind of floating leotards, and also that they would be pissed in, right?
Uh-huh.
That was the final vision for the piece. So she sourced a bunch of ballet leotards from people from people in our class who saw the final work, and that was the point at which they discovered the pee element. Like they had not been briefed about that, which came into play later and was a whole different conversation. Okay. But anyway, so she had 4 of these little costumes, and so I was like helping her, and it's now like an hour before the crit. So the collarbones have been installed, but like she needs to hang the leotards on them, but it was very important for the concept of the piece that it was like we couldn't just get a bowl of piss and like dip them in. They had to actually be like pissed in, as you would soil yourself in a costume.
Okay.
This is like, it's the classic thing of like in art school, none of this is questioned. This would be a very normal conversation, but I'm just watching your face and I'm hearing myself say it. Anyway, so the point is, so she had 4 of these things. So she took 2, I took 2. We both drank a bunch of water. We're like, cool, we'll just go stand outside in the bushes, like outside my flat, quickly just like put on the little cozies, piss ourselves in them, change halfway into the next one, piss that one, and then drive really quickly to art school and install the piece so it's ready for the final display.
Yeah.
And
I have a lot of questions, but I'm holding on to them. Okay. Go on.
So all of this to say, so everything was done until the final piece where there we are standing with like half a child's ballet costume on. Now we're like looking at each other. We're like in the bushes of the garden, like hidden from view, because we obviously didn't want to make a mess inside. We could have just been in the shower. This didn't occur to us. And we just like, so then we're like looking at each other and we're like, okay, go. Are you doing it? Are you, no, you go for it. And we couldn't. But it was like we'd never, and I just remember in that moment, I was like, this is not embarrassing. I don't feel shame. It's not, that's not what's happening here. It's like my body has never at that point stood and peed. So physically, my body's like, what? That like, I don't do this action in this place. Like I couldn't break that physical memory or like physical thing. Yeah. Anyway, so like it was just, and I remember that so clearly as it was just a really profound sense of people talk about your body, you know, the classic book, like the body keeps the score.
Yeah.
And people talk about this like embodied cognition, or this idea that your body can hold memories or store things.
Yeah.
And it was kind of something that I didn't really get. But like moments like that where you just realize my brain was struggling to override like a very embodied way of knowing or way of being, that my body was like, no, this is not what I do. Like I don't do this like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Like I've noticed that, and this is a little different, but like trying to do, you get that feeling where you try and do something like a box jump, for example, would be a good example. So you're jumping from the floor onto a box of a height that maybe is a bit scary for you, for me. And it's like your brain is sending the signals to your body to jump, and your body is just going, no, thank you. And you're like, what the fuck is happening here? Because in my mind, I'm jumping. Like that is the message that I've sent, but my body is just going, no, we don't do that.
And your brain is throwing a tantrum because it's used to being the boss.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now what the fuck?
What do we do
now?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you cross that threshold? This is a bit of a sidetrack, but like in that example, so you're standing there and you know that you will be able to physically do it. Like you are safe. You're not asking your body to go into danger.
Yeah.
Like how do you cross that barrier of just like,
I think it's really individual, and I think part of it is like mindset and what different types of encouragement you might respond to. So for example, I have some friends that really like kind of like really almost aggressive coaching, like the sort of thing you might see in like a 90s movie of like, fucking, what are you, a piece of shit? Blah, blah. Like I do not respond to that one bit. I would
that like boot camp, yell at you until.
But for some people, they like that. They respond to that. That turns a thing on in them that like gives them the thing they need to be like, fuck you, I'll prove you wrong. To me, I'd just go, fuck you, I'm not doing it then. That's what the little brat inside me does.
Exactly
like,
the same.
I hate this. But it's just a personal preference thing. So it could be finding your style of coach, which could be like the exact opposite of that, like a lot of encouragement from people around you, that sort of a thing. Or like from a practical sense, it might be, say the box is, I'm just using this as the example, but say the box is, 1 meter, 2 meters high, and then maybe you jump on something that's 30 centimeters, then 60 centimeters, and you just build it up from there to train your brain to go, it's only 30 centimeters more, it's only 30 centimeters more, or however high you're going. So I think it's like a mixture of like practically making sure that your body does know it is safe by like working your way up to a thing. And then the mindset thing of how can you stop that override from happening and get brain back to being in control. And I feel like that is very personal in terms of what works for you.
I love that example of the making those jumps smaller, because I think that really is speaking to that. It's communicating with your body at the level of your body rather than with words and language.
Yeah.
Because past a certain point, showing it that it's safe is not going to come from your brain rationalizing why it's okay. Because I think we've all been in situations where like you're trying to think your way through something. It's the wrong language. Yeah. Like you need to be shown physically somehow, depending on the situation, that like this is a safe thing.
Yeah, because and the other side of that is like it might not be safe. Do you know what I mean? You're jumping onto a thing of a height you've never jumped to before. You might miss it. You might crack your shin on the edge of the box. Those are things that I've seen happen and they're horrifying. We're just talking about like my box jumping fear specifically here now. Like it's a metaphor. Like, no, I'm just talking about jumping on a box.
Also, to be fair, I'm following you with this thing as a non-CrossFit person. I have never heard of a box jump like it's a thing.
Like a thing, yeah.
But I'm assuming it means jumping onto a box.
Literally just jumping onto a
Got
box.
it.
Yeah.
We're with you.
Yeah, that's it. But where was I going with that? Box term, something.
Oh, it might actually not be
It might not be
safe,
safe. Yeah. So in that sense, doing just another reason why the combination of the like body and brain thing I think is important, because like, yeah, you could actually hurt yourself if you're there going like, I just need to be brave, and then that's not what you needed.
Yeah.
You needed to work up to it more slowly. But also I think that sort of, it can erode some trust in yourself as well. Like if you've given yourself the big pep talk and you were wrong.
Yeah.
That's, so it's that combination of like just doing the work of practice and getting a thing in your body, and then, there is an element of just having to be brave and do it. I'm almost like conflicting myself as I talk, because like handstands are a good example for me, right? Like I'm still very scared of doing freestanding handstands. I go through periods of time where I work on them a little bit, and I could only ever get like a few seconds of hang time. So by freestanding, I just meant like not against a wall or whatever. But for me in that situation, I have done every kind of fucking like preparation exercise. It's not a strength thing. It's not a flexibility thing. It's a like just being scared thing. And so for me, the best thing I can do is to do it, learn how to fall out of it a bunch of times, because you just will. It's fine. And it's actually not that hard to fall out in a way that's not going to hurt you. But until I do that enough times, like that, there's no more like preparation I can do that's going to help me at this point. I just have to do the thing and know that like it will be a little bit scary and I will fall out a few times. So there's like a limit to that like preparation. At some point, you are going to be as prepared as you're ever going to be. So you can stay in that place and stay on the wall, stay on the ground. But at some point, if you don't also have that, okay, I've got to just like take the leap and do the scary thing, that's not, preparation is only going to get you to a certain point.
I suppose with stuff like this, there's things I always think about where it's harder to make little in between micro steps. Like I remember working a job it was amazing. There were this couple and it was a corporate job, and they were facilitating like a team building kind of strategy thing over 3 days. And he was this amazing, like he was one of the youngest people to ever summit Everest. So essentially they'd built the leadership training around the metaphor of mountain climbing, and he could sort of take them on the group exercises and then intersperse it with stories from his trips and photos. And it was fascinating and just so, so cool. And on, I think the second day, he was working there with his partner, and she was this really just like quiet, very unassuming, kind of in quite a support role to the man who happened to be the facilitator in that particular dynamic. And when I was just chatting to her, and I was kind of like, oh, like, yeah, what do you do? Because without meaning to, I suppose, I just attributed, I was like, well, he's the Everest guy. Like, and I'd taken their professional dynamic, I guess, in that one tiny moment and extrapolated it over their whole relationship.
Yeah.
Which was my bullshit and clearly not true, because then she proceeds to tell me her job before coming on, now it's their company together, so they do that work together. Her job before that was being an aerial dancer, like on the wings of planes. They strap them to the wings of those like old school Wright brothers fucking warplanes and shit, those like vintage planes, strap them down by like one leg, and then they do aerial ballet while the plane
Holy
flips.
shit. When you said aerial dancer, I thought you meant like, with the like tissue and the hoops and stuff, like circus shit.
No, in the sky on an aeroplane.
Sky.
It's literally the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Oh my God.
And she's telling me this, she's like in a boardroom. I'm like, who are you? What the fuck? Everyone stop everything. It was so cool. But that's exactly an example. I was like, I have so many follow-up questions.
Yeah.
But that's a thing, which is like, you can train, you can prepare.
Yeah.
But it's not like you can, fly the plane a bit lower so it's less
Yeah,
scary. Like, it doesn't,
exactly.
it's like you're either
exactly.
on the ground or you're in the fucking sky.
Yeah.
And that is it. Like, at some point, you train, you prepare, but like, you just have to do the thing.
Yeah. It's much lower stakes, but it's
a lot
also
like box
like
jumping.
Well, I was going to say it's like graphic recording, like our job doing live illustration. I think it's the same with like any type of performance, like stand-up comedy, for example. Like the audience is a part of that experience. Yeah. So you can practice doing live illustration from TED Talks, or even like you're at a thing but no one's watching you do it, is totally different to knowing that there are eyes on you seeing you do it, to responding to not only what the speaker's saying but how the audience is reacting, feeling the additional pressure. And same thing, with comedy or other sorts of performance that do involve the audience. Like, you can practice those things in front of the mirror or on your computer at home, but until you're doing it in the complete context that it needs to be in, whether it's in the sky or at the front of a room, I mean, we're pretty brave. We're pretty brave. We get up and draw pictures while people are literally looking at us. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
Is it dancing on an airplane?
Sort
Metaphorically.
of. Yeah, sort of is.
Have you ever fucked a job? Like, have you ever had the panic? Because I think a lot of people always ask about that. And I don't think I've ever asked you this actually, even off air, but like, people always ask about like, what happens if you freak out? What happens if you realize you don't know? Have you ever had that wobble of like being in a job and you're like, oh, this is bad?
No, not to the point where I was like, oh, fuck, like this is gone.
Yeah.
But I can tell you about a couple of situations that have been pretty nerve-wracking, or just, anyway, I'll tell you. Obviously, earlier on, everything is fucking terrifying and you're a lot less confident in your ability to be capturing the right things because you're just, and most of the time you are, but when you're for the first time in this sort of like business corporate world, you are convinced that there must be something you don't understand, because how could you possibly understand what they're saying? But you do, because generally the types of events that we would be in are not going to be super technical or anything like that. Anyway, so there's an element of like learning to trust yourself a little bit and getting better at it. But so two things that stick out in my mind. One, I mean, this has happened multiple times, but I remember one instance was particularly bad. I don't know if you find this, but I find politicians to be some of the hardest people.
Because they're not actually often saying anything.
Exactly.
So you're there trying to capture, make clear a thing that they are deliberately making almost impossible to pin down.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. It's all fluff. So like what we try to do in our job is like, cut through any sort of like fluff or buzzwords, or not even that, but just like to really get to the heart of what's happening, because you can't possibly write and draw down everything as someone says. So you're looking for those like headlines, those key points, and often politicians just fucking don't have any. So I've definitely been in situations, say someone was talking for 20 minutes and it's gotten to like the 15-minute mark and I've been like, oh, okay, this wasn't the warm up. Yeah. This is the whole thing. Yeah. And then just like drawn very big.
You just wrote community.
Really commitment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But I feel like everyone kind of knows that's the vibe of those things. But that's definitely been a time where I've been like, oh, like there's actually nothing coming out. The other was doing an event with a university that was very technical, and it was all around exciton science. Please don't ask me to explain it to you because I can't remember what it means, but it's very, very technical, lights and I don't know, particles and things. I don't even know. But it was, so I was still able to keep capturing stuff. I just understood about 10% of it. So it was more like I'm gathering from what you're saying and the questions people are asking, these are the important parts, and sort of replicating some bits of things I could see on slides. But it was different from the regular experience, and that I wasn't sort of like taking it, interpreting it, and kind of rebuilding it. I was just sort of doing my best to keep up. It was really cool, and the client was lovely, and they were very happy with it in the end, which is great. But it was very much like flying blind.
Yeah.
Like I'm writing things down, but I don't understand what any of them mean.
I know that exact feeling, and it's a difference between feeling like you get to filter something and make meaning or find meaning, and the difference between like parroting it. And I'm like, essentially, I'm literally recording this in the way that like a tape recorder might.
Yes.
I'm doing it in pictures, and that's valuable too, because I mean, for them, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's not. I would feel stressed doing that, because that's when you feel you're like, if I slip up a little bit, I can't course correct.
That's right.
Because I've got no actual understanding of
That's
this.
right.
If I miss a single word, it's fucked, and I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, because I have no idea what any of these things mean
or remember the gist of it.
Yeah. But they were great and they were happy. But it was like we have to be very present at the best of times doing that job. But that I was just like on the edge of my seat. And it was long as well. It was like 2 or 3 days. And I was just like, I don't think I blinked the entire time. It was like, But I think they're the ones that stick out as being like tough in terms of, on one side of things, nothing really to record. On the other side of things, everything to record, but no idea what it meant.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've only had one that stands out as like one where I think I fucked up, like, and dropped the ball. And I can't, but I also, it's hard for me to assess really how much of that was happening in reality and how much of that was happening as a result of like, I was in not a good headspace. And I think it was when I learned that I can't do live work 5 days a week. Like I just don't have that kind of, that muscle. And maybe it's a thing I could develop. I don't actually think so. I don't think I physically can do it.
I don't think anyone should, for the record.
It really was. And
I don't think it's an individual
failing.
That's really hard.
It's a lot. And I'd come off the back of, I'd had so much work, and I had a 2-week stint of being booked almost every day at various live events. And this was the final one. And I was fried. Like I remember, and I think it's the only time in this work that I've had the experience of being in it and then pulling back and panicking, because I was looking at what was on the canvas and I was like, this makes no sense. And also like, I can't fix it because I've got nothing. Like I can't even, I'm like waking up into this job, realizing I've spent 10 minutes. I have no idea what this person's talking about, and I'm not listening. And it's not for lack of trying. Yeah. It's just like that faculty has been burnt out. Like that circuit is fried. Yeah. And there's no, and I was like, I can't get out of this. Like it's done. And I just remember them presenting. It was one of the earliest sort of digital jobs. I was early iPad illustration. Yeah. So also I wasn't super comfortable with the tool either. Yeah. And I remember them kind of like cutting to it at the end of the day, like behind the CEO on this huge screen. It just looked so shit. It looked so bad. And it's just, I'm glad with hindsight, I'm glad it's happened, because that's the nightmare. Yeah. And it happened and it was awkward, and there was like people were polite. And that's fine.
Was it really that bad?
That's the thing. I have no idea now. That iPad got stolen, so I can't even go back and find that graphic. And I obviously fixed it up afterwards for them. Yeah. But just that feeling of realizing in real time, I'm like, I am 100% out of control. Yeah. Like this is fucked. There's no way out of this. It's just like, you're looking at the time and it's like, okay, it's 4:00. We wrap at 4:30. Half an hour is not enough time to fix it. It's like, my job is to just survive until 4:31, where I can just pack up shit and walk out of here. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing more you can do. So it's like, either way, I'm leaving here at 4:30. Yeah. That's it. I'm like, there's a world, you have to remind yourself, you're like, there's a world of humans with other jobs and other passions, and they love me and I love them and I have friends, and it's fine.
I am still lovable. Exactly. Oh, you poor thing. Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind. And I think there's been a few times where I have well, a few times. I've done it fucking heaps where I've overextended myself because it never looks that bad in the calendar.
Yeah.
And because you're looking at a future version of you that will somehow be a much better, more relaxed, on top of shit person.
Yeah.
That's what I always assume, that future Jessamy is this like magic being that somehow has gotten all her shit together and is not going to be bothered by 6 days in a row.
You're
of
like,
graphic
would I
recording.
want to do it? No. Could I do it? Probably not. But future me in 2 weeks.
She'll know. She'll have her shit together by then.
100%.
But yeah, it never looks as bad on paper as it is in real life. Or you think like, oh, like I'll be a bit tired, but I'll just get through it. But like in that moment, you would give anything, any money, anything in the world to not be there. And I don't think that there are many, if any, people who can do this sort of work. And I'm sure that there are people listening being like, oh, boo fucking who, you're drawing some pictures every day. You're like, you shouldn't do it more than 2 days in a row. But it is because of the listening aspect of it. And, you know, and as you rightly say, like you were trying really hard. There just is a limit on how much energy you have to listen that intently, particularly if you were moving through different events and different clients over the course of a week. The shift that you have to do between those things is enormous. And I've heard other, like maybe we need to, if we make our imposter bingo card at some point, we need to have quoting Sarah Firth on there because I think it comes up almost every episode because she's so
Patron
wise.
saint of the podcast.
Yes, that's right. But I remember talking to her about this ages ago because she was also a graphic recorder, that she like felt like carried a guilt that she couldn't do it this many days in a row, and everyone was walking around being like, oh, like I'm the only one. Everyone else is doing this 9 to 5, 5 days a week. I just can't do it. There must be something wrong with me. I don't know anyone who does that and survives it.
It's so, oh my God, there's about 20 directions I want to go in. On the way here, I cycled to Jessamy.
You sure did.
I was definitely going to slide that into the podcast somewhere because I'm basically a warrior princess. Very proud of myself. I did text Jess like every kilometer, feeling progressively more sad about that choice. I was like, am I so brave?
You are a brave girl. What am I?
Proud. You're proud.
That's right. Proud
I was listening to the episode with you and Jazz from last week.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fucking awesome. I loved it. I was like, oh, so nice.
This podcast is great.
I was like, let's do it like this. And she was at some point speaking about that kind of classic 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours play, which comes out of the Industrial Revolution. And you can actually find in old graphic design archives the first posters where people put that up as kind of like we take it so for granted, this kind of like division of our time, but it's a completely invented sense of like how your time on earth should, and I say that with big air quotes, should be divided. And as I was cycling and I was listening to that, and I was thinking about this as an example where obviously, and this sounds so obvious that it almost isn't worth saying, but it is worth saying because it's so obvious we forget it. It's like different jobs, and that can include the job you're paid for, but there are many jobs you do that aren't paid for in your home, in your relationships, in a million other ways. Those all take a different amount of time and also energy. Yeah. And to kind of like have a prescriptive idea of what hard work looks like in terms of a time metric is like you're using the wrong metric to measure value. Yeah. But yet I still feel, and I find that even I've had this with partners a lot, and it's nothing on them. Like I've never ever been with someone who's guilted me around working, but I feel bad. Yeah. Like I feel very self-conscious if I've done a 3-day event and I'm fried, and I'll still go into the office or the studio the next day to do admin, but I'll take a chilled morning to do that. Yeah. And it's not even a chilled morning because the entire morning I'm like, fuck, you're such a fucking lazy piece of shit. Oh my God. They think you're like, but it's, everyone else is working 9 to 5. And I'm like, but that's I don't know.
It's so fraught. And it's not, you're right. And it's not the same. But also if you think of like, if you're working 9 to 5 in an office doing whatever, what do office people do? I don't fucking know.
Emails.
A job, emails. But it's not, you are not working all of those 8 hours. You know, like you're coming in. I mean, hopefully if you're working in an office with a nice culture, you're saying hi to some people, you're making a coffee. It's not like, I think for us who haven't had many real jobs, we compare ourselves to something that actually isn't real. So we're often thinking, oh, everyone else is there like working super hard for these 8 hours every day in this really structured way. I don't think that's what most people's working days look like.
Yeah. And I think for the ones that are, I do think there's professions probably like if we spoke to some lawyer friends, for example, that actually they may well be at 100% capacity for an 8 or 10 hour day. But those are also going to be the professions where people burn out and have full-on breakdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what should be is, like you say, like people are they might be there for 8 hours, but they are modulating their energy and regulating that over the course of that 8 hours. And that's not in any way to undermine, be like, they're not working as hard. It's like, no, but they're modulating that over the course of the day in the way that we might be doing over the course of a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's hard to, what am I trying to say? I had 2 trains of thought and now I'll take that one and then I lost it and now I've forgotten both of them. Come on, brain.
Oh, office jobs.
Yeah, no, it's coming.
Okay.
Put me down. Save me from myself. Now I'm so annoyed that I have to remember what it was. Fuck.
Can I give you keywords?
No.
Oh.
I hate it when Dan does that. I'm like, shut up.
No, I got it. I was like, I'm trying to work out based on your face. I'm like, is this helpful or is this, it's fine.
It's got to do with comparing the way that we work to how other people work. Oh, I think, so I would get really, because as you know, I have these like productivity cyclones that I would get into. And that feels so good when you're in it. It's almost like a manic state of getting shit done. And then for such a long time, I would feel, and it's nice as well, like you feel inspired and motivated, but that level of output is not sustainable. But I'd have, say, like 2 days where it's like, I'm just like, just like on it, inspired and doing so. And then, of course, you naturally get a dip after that. But I would feel like so guilty about that sudden dip where I'm like, oh, I can't do anything today. Like I've lost it. But I've also done like 4 days worth of work in 2 days beforehand. But sort of having this idea that like work should look a certain way and comparing like today Jessamy to yesterday Jessamy, be like, well, why can't I do what she did? It's like because she used all our juice.
Yeah,
but
she spent it all.
She spent it all. But trying to sort of look at that, in more of a like long-term view of like there are seasons and peaks and troughs and sometimes like make the most of the cyclone while you're in it, but also know that this means there will be a dip following and that is also okay.
Yeah, trust it and like ease into it and allow it to be a dip instead of fighting it because then you miss the rest. You miss recuperating, but you also are not productive anyway.
Exactly. So you're just like trying to make something work when it's not working. And I imagine probably takes longer to get back to one of the like good productivity cyclone days because you've been trying to like force it when it's not going to happen. Oh, fuck, that's what I was going to say. So this is all very like front of mind for me at the moment because Dan has just recently, he did about a year of having a full-time job and has now gone back to working for himself, which is amazing for all involved. But we're having a lot of these conversations about, the comparisons between the two and some people are built for it and some people are not and blah, blah, blah. And he has a lot of like guilt stuff around exactly all this stuff we're talking about. Like I'm not working hard enough. If I'm enjoying it, then it's not like someone's going to find me out. But part of the there are so many pros and cons to freelancing, running your own business, working for yourself, you know, that you've got to take the pros.
Yeah.
You know, because like you take the cons of having to do your own admin and not knowing where your money is coming from all the time and, you know, those scary dips in work. So you have to take the pros of like, my days are flexible. I do get to work. I mean, you know, within the realms of reality, like sometimes there are deadlines you don't feel like working towards that you have to work towards. But for like general day to day, this is part of the reason we put up with all the shit part, because we do have control. And if you're feeling really run down, just like sleep later. It doesn't. Literally no one is watching. It doesn't matter. And if we don't take advantage,
there are no grown-ups.
There are no grown-ups here. And if we don't take advantage of the good parts, like that's like what a waste.
Yeah,
you know.
This is the thing: is that the bad parts are compulsory. Like you don't get to opt out of tax. But the good parts are optional.
I don't know. Some people think you can.
Some of us tried and you can't. But it's that's the thing is it's like an opt-in, opt-out system. But the tough stuff, the responsibilities are like they're compulsory anyway. Yeah. But there are equal and opposing and balancing pros.
Yeah.
But no one else is on your ass about doing that stuff.
That is such a
so
good
it's
point.
almost like I feel like it's like a cost and bit, but it's like you've paid your money to get into Disneyland and it has cost you that. It will cost you that. That's just, it costs something.
Yeah.
You're there now. Go on the fucking rides.
Yeah. Yes.
Am I a business coach?
Yes.
Mickey Mouse
paid your money. Now go on the fucking ride.
Yeah, like the car. You don't get to choose to pay for entry. You do get to choose if you go on the rides, but it's like for fuck's sakes, go. Like you.
You could 100% do a like motivational speaking circuit based on that soundbite alone. I am on board.
I've got it, guys. Business solutions. Not even wearing a bra.
That's how we know you're the woman whose advice we want.
Thank you. It's exhausting having all the answers.
Well, on that note, since you need to go and rest your beautiful genius brain from solving all of our issues,
I need to go cycle home like the badass commuting bitch that I am.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to narrate it. You're going to get so many texts.
Just pull over to text.
God. Yeah, I like physically can't. I love that you thought there was a reality where I was like, what is it?
Have I just revealed myself as a like very much a non-rider? Is everyone else like?
People do that. You're right. Okay. It hadn't even occurred to. It was so not even close to an option right now.
We saw two kids riding beside our car the other day. One was dinking the other, which is so super cute. Is that a word they use in South Africa?
Dinking?
Where they stand like on the back of the bike, or you can sit on the handlebars. Basically, two kids on one bike.
Cute.
So he was standing like on the back of the bike, with his feet on the things. And I was like, oh, that's cute. And I was like, oh, probably shouldn't be just looking at his phone though. So he was the kid on the back was standing there just like texting. And I'm like, that feels dangerous.
But the kid on the back was on his phone.
The kid on the back.
That is the preferable kid to be on the phone.
Yes, but still, he's balanced fairly precariously. And I mean, hey.
Youths, am I right? They were on
well, you would know.
They were on their way to the hostel.
On their way to get some tuna and cheese snacks. Like all the cool kids do.
It was really good. It's filling and also cheap, guys, just saying.
Yeah. Look, I don't hate it. As someone who also has no food at home right now, I'm the last person who should be judging anyone because I'm walking around being like, what can I possibly fashion from these things? And it's nothing. I've just been eating cereal out of the box with my hands all day because I couldn't be fucked going to the shop. So tuna and cheese is like a delicacy compared to hand cereal.
Just you eating hand cereal and then the thought bubble above your head. Is it eggs or is it farts? Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Love you.
Thanks, everyone. Love you and everyone's ears as well. It's the best.
You're the best.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram at imposterpod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.